Vandeham Sri Guru.
So we have covered so far about the soul, karma, modes of nature, how things happen, why things happen. So it might be a little catch up for you, but I'll try to make it as easily understandable. So for everybody else, today's topic is horrors of the Iron Age. Okay, Krishna prefers me to be so that the camera doesn't go that far. So time is a pretty important aspect in our lives, and as we know from the karma theory, that time is what brings forth karma. So we remember this picture. These are different lifetimes and actions we perform. We can receive it 5 minutes later, like punching somebody and getting punched back, or it could be cheating in the exam, or killing somebody, whatever the action is, the reactions we receive in a certain time frame. So time factor determines, we get old, we get diseased, we grow up. So everything is happening with the power of time. So even in here, parties change, governments change. This is the presidential palace of Haiti. Earthquake, fell down. Saddam Hussein, we all know about him. Bill Gates used to be the richest person, now it's somebody else. Catastrophe happens. So it's all brought forth by time. Time also influences part of the day. We heard from modes of nature, how the 3 modes of different nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, affect our lives. And all 3 of them, by the way, are important. So in the morning, we are in a fresh mind, we study, we meditate, we do things that are in the mode of goodness. During the day, we work, we are into creativity, it's more activity, so that's passion. And that's, again, so the 24 hours, there's 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, like that's broken up. And the nighttime, mode of ignorance helps go to sleep, calm down, end the day. So that is living in harmony with nature, but sometimes we know, especially when I was in college, I used to go to sleep at 4 a.m. in the morning, wake up at 10 a.m. It's just, So according to that, your consciousness is, and life is very, very difficult, and it's prone to be having a stressful life, diseases, other things that come. You grow old faster. So the best way to do is live in harmony with nature, and so time is a big part of material nature. Time is also cyclical. There is day and night, day and night, day and night. Keeps going like that. There's change of seasons. So we all know this. So this is on a very microscopic level, on a day-to-day basis or on a yearly basis. But even on a much broader spectrum, the Vedas talk about different time periods. So the Satya Yuga, right now we are here, Kali Yuga. So let me use the pointer. There we go. The Kali Yuga, the last of the, but there was Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. So all these time frames, mode of goodness and passion, goodness, passion, ignorance. Like that, time progresses, deteriorates. And as we progress through this, morality, intelligence, memory, lifespan deteriorates. So even 100 years ago, this is an example. In India, we used to have these competitions where somebody would be asked 100 questions, and somebody would be ringing a bell, and the person would be answering all those questions serially in order, and know how many bells were rung in that time frame. So that's pretty nice memory. Now we cannot even remember. We need reminders for our parents' birthdays or our best friends' birthdays, whatever. So intelligence, morality. Children like I give the example, last week I think I talked about it, how in the 60s you have to use like some kind of slang or bad words, or cheated an exam to be kicked out, now it's carry guns to school, or drug abuse, or try to kill somebody, alcohol abuse, like that. So morality also changes. Lifespan. People used to live much longer back then, so they could meditate for years together. Now we only live at best 100 years. If you get to be more than 100, you get to be on the Guinness Book of World Records. But average is 60 to 70. So what is it like in Kali Yuga? So the Vedic scriptures, they were written down 5,000 years ago in writing format, but they existed much long before that, from the Satyuga time, so millions of years old. And that talks about today's time, what happens in Kali Yuga. Well, learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So we get to see this in our day-to-day lives. Well, short lives, I was just reading something that said, right now in US, the chance of cancer is 1 in 2 people, so 50%. So can you imagine, in the classroom, 50% of us have the probability that we'll get cancer in our lifetime. So life's getting shorter, new diseases are coming up. Laziness, spiritually lazy. We don't question life. We see so many things happening, so many injustices, wars, but we just go on the conveyor belt. I'll do my thing, my college, my wife, get married, this, and life goes on, and one day I die, and that's it. There's nothing beyond it, right? So that's laziness. Misguided. There is guidance, there are teachers, but even in college environment, we're not taught moralistic values. There's no character development. There is nothing that makes a human being a human being. It's just a bunch of skills that we learn, which is nice. But like you will see the next slide, guided missiles by misguided men can be very dangerous. We have such hi-fi technology, but look at these people. It's not just somebody from Taliban. It's also from the very civilized world. What are we fighting about? Oil? Maybe a little bit more land? It's like children, right? So misguided people, unfortunately. There's more. Then, okay, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. So, let me pull something out. I just did a little research and found out where we fall in Kali Yuga.
We always fall.
No, but what year we are in? So it's 30. So Kali Yuga started on 18th February, 3102 BC. So we're in 5,114 years, 8 months, 8 days into Kali Yuga.
What was the date again?
14th. See, that's memory. I have no memory. Look at it. February 18th, 3102 BC. So departure of Krishna and Kali Yuga started. So, and it says day by day. So we're in the golden period of Kali Yuga. The first 10,000 years are supposed to be the best part of Kali Yuga. And already, there is a lot going on right now. And there's more to come. Things are going to deteriorate over time. And the point is that we recognize that and we ask the relevant questions in our life and find the answers for a spiritual alternative to our material problems. So Dharma, what is Dharma? Anybody remember from the second class, Dharma was defined?
Prescribed duty.
It's the right answer, but that's not how it was defined. Yes. So questioning life. The difference between a human being and an animal is an animal goes on with life, a human being asks questions. So that's one part of dharma, but it's also conducting our lives according to religiosity. What is there in religion? There are 4 pillars of religion. And this is not anything spiritual. It just makes us human beings to be clean, merciful, truthful, and tolerant. So that's what religion stands on, the 4 basic pillars. So truthfulness. There are various degrees of truthfulness. But let's just talk about a few relevant examples. Rod Blagojevich, our former governor of Illinois. Obama became president, and there was an empty seat, and he was calling other people to find the right price to sell that seat. In India, coming from India, we all know, police, they love bribes. There are no fines, there's always bribes. For those who know about business history, there was this company called Enron, which was pretty much a big, massive billion-dollar lie, and they're all in jail. And Satyam. Satyam means truthfulness, right? Scam. And this, I'm sure we all have seen at IIT itself. In fact, I was at an exam one time. I gave my paper to the professor, and then somebody else, I just come back to my seat, and there's 2 guys, it's like shouting and dictating the answer to each other. It's like, no dude, faster, faster. I'm like, whoa. Like, the professor's right there, he's watching, and these guys are just... So, this is happening. We all know these things. So, that's the sign of Kali Yuga. Saucham, cleanliness. And Ed and I were looking for pictures to put up there, but thought that wouldn't be a good idea. So cleanliness not just outside, but also of the mind, of the thoughts, the kind of things we see. When we see objects around us, or people around us, what is it that goes around in our consciousness? Tolerance. It's not just putting a coexist label or saying, okay, I'm a humanitarian, I love my species, race, culture, religion. There are 8.4 million species according to the Vedas. And one who is tolerant of, not just tolerant, but inclusive of all forms of life. Aquatics, birds, trees. So we respect life. It's a pretty interesting quote. I don't understand why we destroy something created by man, we call it vandalism. But when we destroy something created by nature, we call it progress. And progress is not wrong. But it should not come at the cost of destruction of Mother Nature or other living entities. Mercy. We all know about mercy. I mean, we are Vedic Vision Society. We are all trying to be vegetarians, and killing animals, killing cows and chickens. We know that. What about human beings? This is Hong Kong. I was there last year, and very opulent city. I mean, Ed and I were walking around in 15 minutes. We saw 3 Ferrari stores. And there were Rolls Royces on the street and just Mercedes. Even the cabs are Mercedes. It's just fantastic. But you dig a little deeper, and you see this. The senior citizens are put in a tiny room in cages. So this person, whatever belongs to this person, goes in this tiny cage. Because the government doesn't want them to be shown outside to the people, who are maybe the Westerners coming for business. They don't want to see poverty. So they shove them in there. And it's not free, by the way. Any guesses how much the rent is for each cage? Make a random guess. In US dollars.
$500?
That high. But it's pretty high. 166 US dollars for a cage. Even rabbits wouldn't want to live there. But that's how it is, right? We see, as consumers, and I use the word consumer, not citizens, not people, but as consumers, we're given a certain picture that is very nicely drawn. And it's like, for example, in America, you wouldn't see dead bodies that easily. Death is hidden. Old age, people are shoved into their own little senior living quarters. We don't see death, old age, disease that easily because it's not pleasing to the eyes. But if we do question life. When Buddha came out of his father's palace and saw death, old age, and disease, he was like, what is this? Why is there suffering? And as soon as he asked those questions, he got it, that life is not about just enjoying and moving on, but there is something more to it. I don't want this temporary life. I don't want to suffer. There must be something else. So, the Bhagavatam describes that these three pillars are pretty much gone. But this truthfulness, you see the little cracks, it's still standing in the tottering platform. It's just there. Because it's still, people look down upon you when they find out you lied. Bill Clinton, when he lied, people didn't care so much that he had an affair with Monica Lewinsky, and the cleanliness part, nobody cared about that. But the fact that he lied was a big deal. Even with the Indian cop getting bribed, right? They take pictures and it becomes a big news, and people like, oh, look at them, corrupt politicians, corrupt this. They might be corrupt themselves, cheating in their exams, but so people do look down upon people who are not truthful. So that's still standing there. So we'll talk about, I'll show you a video. It's called Story of Stuff. And that will give us a better appreciation of the Kali Yuga mentality.
We have become a nation of consumers. Our primary identity has become that of being consumers, not mothers, teachers, farmers, but consumers. The primary way that our value is measured and demonstrated is by how much we contribute to this arrow, how much we consume. And do we? We shop and shop and shop, keep the materials flowing, and flow they do. Guess what percentage of total materials flow through this system is still in product or use 6 months after the date of sale in North America? 50%? 20%? No, 1%. 1. In other words, 99% of the stuff we harvest, mine, process, transport, 99% of the stuff we run through this system is trashed within 6 months. Now, how can we run a planet with that level of materials throughput? It wasn't always like this. The average U.S. person now consumes twice as much as they did 50 years ago. Ask your grandma. In her day, stewardship and resourcefulness and thrift were valued. So how did this happen? Well, it didn't just happen. It was designed. Shortly after World War II, these guys were figuring out how to ramp up the economy. Retailing analyst Victor Lebeau articulated the solution that's become the norm for the whole system. He said, our enormously productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction, our ego satisfaction in consumption. We need things consumed, burned up, replaced, and discarded at an ever-accelerating rate. President Eisenhower's Council of Economic Advisors chairman said that the American economy's ultimate purpose is to produce more consumer goods. More consumer goods? Our ultimate purpose? Not provide health care or education or safe transportation or sustainability or justice? Consumer goods? How did they get us to jump on board this program so enthusiastically? Well, 2 of their most effective strategies are planned obsolescence and perceived obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is another word for designed for the dumb. It means they actually make stuff to be useless as quickly as possible, so we'll chuck it and buy a new one. It's obvious with things like plastic bags and coffee cups, but now it's even big stuff. Mops, DVDs, cameras, barbecues even, everything. Even computers. Have you noticed that when you buy a computer now, the technology is changing so fast that in just a couple of years, it's actually an impediment to communication? I was curious about this, so I opened up a big desktop computer to see what was inside. And I found out that the piece that changes each year is just a tiny little piece in the corner. But you can't just change that one piece because each new version is a different shape. So you've got to chuck the whole thing and buy a new one. So I was reading industrial design journals from the 1950s when planned obsolescence was really catching on. These designers are so open about it. They actually discuss how fast can they make stuff break that still leaves the consumer having enough faith in the product to go out and buy another one. It was so intentional. But stuff cannot break fast enough to keep this arrow afloat. So there's also perceived obsolescence. Now, perceived obsolescence convinces us to throw away stuff that is still perfectly useful. How do they do that? Well, they change the way the stuff looks. So if you bought your stuff a couple of years ago, everyone can tell that you haven't contributed to this arrow recently. And since the way we demonstrate our value is contributing to this arrow, it can be embarrassing. Like, I've had the same fat white computer monitor on my desk for 5 years. My coworker just got a new computer. She has a flat, shiny, sleek monitor. It matches her computer, it matches her phone, even her pen stand. She looks like she's driving in Spaceship Central, and I look like I got a washing machine on my desk. Fashion is another prime example of this. Have you ever wondered why women's shoe heels go from fat one year to skinny the next to fat to skinny? It's not because there's some debate about which heel structure is the most healthy for women's feet. It's because wearing fat heels in a skinny heel year shows everybody that you haven't contributed to that arrow as recently, so you're not as valuable as that person in skinny heels next to you, or more likely in some ad. It's to keep us buying new shoes. Advertisements and media in general plays a big role in this. Each of us in the U.S. is targeted with over 3,000 advertisements a day. We see more advertisements in 1 year than people 50 years ago saw in a lifetime. And if you think about it, what's the point of an ad except to make us unhappy with what we have? So 3,000 times a day, we're told our hair is wrong, our skin is wrong, our clothes are wrong, our furniture is wrong, our car is wrong, we are wrong, but it can all be made right if we just go shopping. Media also helps by hiding all of this and all of this. So the only part of the materials economy we see is the shopping. The extraction, production, and disposal all happens outside of our field of vision. So in the U.S., we have more stuff than ever before, but polls show that our national happiness is actually declining. Our national happiness peaked in the 1950s, the same time that this consumption mania exploded. Interesting coincidence. I think I know why. We have more stuff, but we have less time for the things that really make us happy. Friends, family, leisure time. We're working harder than ever. Some analysts say we have less leisure time than any time since feudal society. And do you know what the two main activities are that we do with the scant leisure time we have? Watch TV and shop. In the US, we spend 3 to 4 times as many hours shopping as our counterparts in Europe do. So we're in this ridiculous situation where we go to work, maybe 2 jobs even, and we come home and we're exhausted, so we plop down on our new couch and watch TV, and the commercials tell us you suck, so you gotta go to the mall to buy something to feel better, and then you gotta go to work more to pay for the stuff you just bought, so you come home and you're more tired, so you sit down and you watch more TV, and it tells you to go to the mall again, and we're on this crazy work, watch, spend treadmill. And
So, I think that's a pretty good impression. Anybody wants to share anything that they felt from this video?
It's actually my daughter is going to school, so we feel that the way the kids are being taught, they also do these tricks for them to like implement passion in their mind without their knowledge, without kids' knowledge.
It's very subtle,
Yeah.
subconscious.
They don't know it, but actually they're learning something, but through the mind is going through the passion.
There was actually a documentary called, I think, Food Inc. And they had these children sitting and they asked them, where does your milk come from? And the child was like, from the grocery store. Right? So cows can be treated as they want, meat can come wherever. People don't even think that there is a living, breathing being that's being killed for 10 minutes of my pleasure. So it's all like just a consumer part, like she said, everything that goes behind is completely sealed out from vision. So why do we need to know all this about Kali? Okay, we know, this is not a very nice time, and there's lots of things that are going wrong. Just so we can prepare. It's just like any situation. So if there is, let's say, winter is coming up, so those of us this is our first winter, you know how to get a jacket, right? If you have some kind of disease, you get a medicine. So like that, when we know the situation is like this, we need to know a solution, how to live and get over the situation. So in Kali Yuga, the odds are against us. But there's a simple and sublime spiritual alternative. So in the Vedas, it says that if we remember the 4 yugas, the Satya Yuga, it was meditation for years together, when we were meditating on Vishnu. In the Treta Yuga, it was massive fire sacrifices, and these are like literally tons of butter and ghee and other things would be used. Very, very opulent process, very lengthy process. And people were so powerful that they had mystical powers to light the fire. They didn't need matchsticks. So that kind of brahmanas we had. Not possible in Kali Yuga. And then it became temple worship in the Treta Yuga, which was it's called the Yuga Dharma, or the prescribed religious process for that yuga. And in this yuga, Kali Yuga, it's chanting the name of Krishna, Hare Krishna. So there's George Harrison, one of the Beatles. When the Hare Krishna movement came to the United States in the 60s, we spread like wildfire. In 11 years, we were in more than 100 countries with 108 temples. And one of those countries was UK, and George Harrison came to know about the Hare Krishnas. He became a Hare Krishna, and he was in the process of chanting Krishna's holy name, and he made multiple records that were very, very successful in Europe and US and Czech Republic, Russia. So that's what we chanted. We were chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So that is recommended in the Vedas. It's not something somebody came up with. It's not a concocted process. And this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna's incarnation 500 years ago, came and he started to emphasize on this fact that chanting Krishna's holy name or meditating on the Hare Krishna mantra is the way in this Kali Yuga that can protect us from the good and the bad that's happening around us. And we can be happy and liberated while we're in this life form. Kalir dosha nidhe rajan asti eka mahaguna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha paramda Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. So, those of us who weren't here, there is the material world and the spiritual world. So, transcendental kingdom is that spiritual world. It's not heaven, it's where we belong, where time doesn't exist. It's eternal. It's our home with Krishna. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam. Kalau nasti, vanasti, vanasti vagatir. So in Sanskrit, when something is emphasized 3 times, it is pretty much underlined, bold, italics. Very, very important. So Narad Muni is talking about this. In age of Kali, there is no other means for self-realization than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. Now, one can say, what about other religions? Every religion talks about meditation. Every religion talks about calling out to God. The Quran talks about chanting God's name, Allah's name, at all times. Buddhism talks about that. Christianity, they chant on the rosary, pretty similar to our beads. So this is a very universal principle. And it's a very easy principle, because we don't have long lifespans. We don't have the memory and intelligence to go through all the Vedas and understand the philosophy. But this is a simple process, what you can do in your bedroom, in your bathroom, while you're on the train. There might be multiple things happening. Most people have their iPods on. I was at Northwestern. We were doing Harinam there. And there was this, brahmachari in saffron and weird clothes. Nobody notices that there is at least laugh at us. That'd be nice. Nobody notices. They're just on their iPods, just walking through. It's like, wow. And the only people who noticed us were the people who didn't have their ears plugged up. And they were either smiling or taking pictures or, asking questions. So it all starts from hearing about it. As we hear, we understand, then we speak, and then we practice, meditate. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. More scriptures. Upanishad the Kali Sandhana Upanishad talks about. After searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age than the chanting of Hare Krishna. This, mind you, this is the same Vedic scriptures that 5,000 years ago talks about Buddha coming out. It talks about Jesus Christ. It predicts the future. It predicts Kali Yuga. In fact, Krishna was doing a research, and I'll probably ask Ed to read that part. It just so nicely predicts the mentality of people and what's going to happen in this yuga. So, I mean, this is a very scientific process. And hence, as Hare Krishnas, we do this. We chant Krishna's name. This is in Paris, but all over the world, there are devotees simply chanting, eat nice, wonderful food that has been offered to Krishna, read the books, understand the basic philosophy, have a blissful life. Nothing to do with whatever is going. It's not like we are completely oblivious to that. Once we have the oxygen cylinder on our mouth, then we can help others. But we need to know what is good, what is bad. One might think, okay, I'll feed the poor, or I'll make hospitals. But are you really helping them? What about tomorrow? Will they have food in their mouths? So this process gets into the root cause. It's changing the consciousness of the people. Because right now we're going to have elections. People are like Obama, Romney. Same ideas. They want power. They want certain things. They have certain agenda. The same consciousness. Who's caring about what's good for people? There's the 99% and 1% fight going on. Who really, who cares about the 99%? Because they're not the ones that make the decision. There's the 1% that pay for the politicians. There are the lobbyists, massive lobbyists in DC that are paid multi-billion dollars to rally for things. I come from a background where I get to see this. Certain corporations come up with technologies that, with food, let's say, they're carcinogenic. You know that. I'm on camera, so I won't name the companies. You know for a fact it's carcinogenic. This company was not allowed for 15 years by the FDA to be approved because it was very blatant. What happened was, this company's VP, one of the high execs, switched over to the committee in FDA that makes the decisions and overruled, and they got approved. As soon as they got approved, the person comes back as VP in the corporation. And this is not a rare case. It happens all the time. But do we have the strength to do anything about it? Maybe, maybe not. We're too tiny, really, to make anything, because this is a very intrinsic process. The whole system is like this. But we can be examples. We can change our lives and be happy. And when we are genuinely happy, when we are genuine individuals with qualities of a human being that should be, exemplary character, others will automatically want to know what it is that our secret is. And that is truly kirtana, that is truly glorifying this process. This whole process is very much inward looking. We're looking into changing our own consciousness, our own activities, and it's not a secular, like 2 hours a day or 5 hours a day or on certain days I'll be good. It's a life transformation of lifestyle. Everything we do, we have to be conscious. Are we hurting others? Are we being respectful to everything? Because everything comes from a source. And if we have any respect for that source, we'll automatically respect others. Like that slide in the 8.4 million species, there are some people that talk about saving trees or saving pets, but they might be eating meat. They might be beating up their wives. So it's not a holistic process. It's very, very incomplete unless you go to the root of it, the spiritual basis. We are spiritual beings. So unless we go to the spiritual basis, we cannot solve the problems on a superficial level. So that's where it ends. Any questions? Yes?
I have one. I didn't quite get why you started your lecture with the horrors of the Iron Age. And I was trying hard to understand why the lecture started with the horrors of the Iron Age, and I didn't quite get it.
Iron Age is Kali Yuga. You heard the word Kali Yuga many times, right?
Yes.
That's the English for Kali Yuga. So everything that's happening now, if you really look deep into it, like that video, beyond the consumer's perspective, it's pretty horrific. It's a lot of exploitation, a lot of envy, a lot of competition, a lot of backbiting. Even in school, the way we are brought up, there's constant competition. For me to succeed, I have to elbow somebody else out. So without getting too gory about it, I just give a little glimpse into what it is and how we can be happy even in this situation, and at the end of our lives go back to where we came from. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, a little. Does that Iron Age you talk about has something or anything or everything to do with the European Iron Age, like back?
No.
Because I was quite confused about that.
Oh, okay. No.
That's why I was trying to make some relation to that kind of that Iron Age.
No.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay. Yeah, you had a question?
I was actually kind of going to add to that because I had recently looked up something on like Greek philosophy, and they mentioned that they had like 4 ages, like the Golden Age.
What philosophy is it?
I can't remember what I was like looking for, but
Okay.
like I just came across it on the internet, and like they mentioned 4 ages, like the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and then Iron Age or something. So could they have been referring to like
Yes.
what we had?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the Vedic culture 5,000 years ago was pretty spread all over the world. Bharatvarsha means the whole world. So there's a lot of similarities between cultures because there's reference to the Greek culture, the European culture. There's always, there are words in Spanish, words in Latin that you'll find that trace back to Sanskrit because it was a pervasive culture. It's not just an Indian thing, it's a universal process. Everybody's welcome. Yes, Edward?
Also, just to add to pervasiveness, I forgot the name of the Native American tribe, but also made reference to the 4 Yugas.
I don't remember the name of the tribe, but
Well, I guess you're all at the point that yes, it was even widespread in North America, was geographically it seemed very, very cut off. So that was pretty pervasive. Norman, if I knew.
oh, what? Can you speak up?
Oh, it was a very pervasive idea that wasn't restricted even to, let's say,
A tribe, a secluded tribe, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
In the Vaporika you told temple worship. So what was the deity form they were worshipping?
Vishnu deities.
Krishna deity.
Vishnu. If you go to Cambodia and all those different places, they have these massive temples. Those are relics from that age. In India, they're taken care of because of that Vedic culture is still there. But in other places where the Vedic, Bali, Indonesia, Malaysia, Afghanistan, like Kandahar was Gandhar, which is mentioned in the Mahabharata. So like that, there were multiple, and they were all worshipping Vishnu deities. I mean, they were also like Suryas and the universal controllers, but main offering was made to God. Yes.
Just one question regarding names and stuff, like the word Krishna and Vishnu and all that. Is the same name, when one talks about like the temple worship is in Treta Yuga, right? So,
Dwapar Yuga, sorry.
Does that refer to like worship towards a figure like Krishna or something with the name Krishna all throughout, or is the name that important, or?
It's a supreme person, supreme personality of Godhead.
No, but is Krishna important?
Some temples are Krishna, some temples is Vishnu, some temple is Jagannath, some temple is something. God has unlimited names.
I mean, yeah, like names that don't fall under Hindu culture.
This is not Hindu culture.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what today, like the word Allah.
Right.
That will also be in Hindu. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Allah means Almighty.
Okay.
That describes God.
Yeah, just asking that.
Yeah.
So it's after the Vaporika the name of Krishna was
No.
before that.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Even, yeah. It's always in the Vedas. Yes.
Another question just regarding the example picture shown for the temple worship.
Okay.
Is it because that's not the most prosperous age as well, right?
Not the most prosperous age, but still
More
way more prosperous
prosperous, yeah.
than now.
But so there will be traces of materialism in
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Hence the
This is the material world. Everything you see is material,
no,
but there are grades of materialism.
okay. So there will be traces of materialism within the golden age kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the 90% of the Vedas is called karma kanda, which is materialistic. I do certain thing, I get some certain things. So I want to go to the heavenly realms, or I want to do this. So it's all about selfish tinge there, but it can be goodness. But like we learned, that spiritual is different from material. It's beyond that.
Would proof for materialism existing in those ages be us? The fact that we haven't gone back is
Yeah.
proof that we have been materialistic through the ages.
Yeah, one can say that.
Also, is it correct to say that materialism in the previous ages was more regulated because people were still prescribing to what the Vedas said? You know, if I do this, I'll get this in return. But in this age of Kali, when the knowledge of Vedas is not so pervasive, we're just acting based on our own knowledge, our own intelligence, which is very, very limited, so we get some surprise outcomes.
I remember
Sometimes not.
I was an RA, and I was always a freshman year RA, like freshman floor RA. So alcohol was not, restricted because you're not 21. And there would be always their 21st birthday. They would get drunk and throw up. One guy was so tragic. He was in the bathroom the whole night on his birthday, right? So that's what Vikarma looked like. We talked about karma, Vikarma, Akarma. Karma is activities prescribed, in harmony with nature. Vikarma is just, I do what I want to do. That's what's happening now. And akarma is transcendental activity, spiritual activity. So, although we're trying to enjoy, we're trying to gratify our senses, we really don't know how to properly do it. And we just act like, the way we want. And that way, we're really not able to actually be happy. So, people in Satya Yuga or previous yugas were actually able to be much more happier because they knew how to enjoy their senses. And boy, oh boy. I mean, if you hear, even the money was gold. The plates, some of us still have gold coin relics, right, from our ancestors. So like that, plates were gold. Now we have what? Plastic plates? Styrofoam, maybe paper, right? So opulence was much better because they knew how to enjoy. It's still not recommended, but it's better than this kind of time when everything is turmoil. We're stressed out, we're working like donkeys, hoping we'll get to go home and watch TV and this soap. That's the highest we can think of. If somebody has a little bit more money, maybe something else.
So you were saying earlier about how, like, for different religions, Krishna is referred to as, like, either God or Allah or Shiva. So, like, can a person of a different religion come to Krishna consciousness even if, like, the name they're calling out to is different?
Yeah, God knows, right? If I call the Mataji with the nice beads on her neck, you know I'm talking about you, right? And the striped sweater. So like that, when you're referring to God, God knows no matter what name you're calling. God knows. And Krishna says, Tadami buddhi yogam tam. I give the intelligence so you can come to me. The one who is sincerely looking for God, looking for spiritual life, questioning life and want to get out of it, Krishna provides the opportunity, guaranteed. That's why all of you are here. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm not too sure whether to ask this question at this point.
Just
Go
do
ahead.
it.
It's related to, means I've just been here for 2 classes, but then I've heard the idea of a supreme entity, kind of like Krishna, something been mentioned a lot. So with what, can you give like a summary of what exactly one would define as the most supreme entity or something like that?
We did a class called Godism, so we described who God is. So there are universal laws, right? Like E is equal to mc squared or gravity or things like that. So if there is law, there is a lawmaker by default. Because we have state laws, there is a lawmaker. Somebody has to make it. If there is an organization, there has to be an organizer. So it's a conscious personality, not an entity. That's energy, but it's actually a person. That the Vedas refer to as Krishna. Krishna means all attractive. Because whether you're a theist or an atheist, there is an understanding of a higher power. The fact that I don't believe in God means there is something about God. There are tribes out there, the Aborigines or the Amazonian tribes, they worship waterfall or mountains with an idea there is some higher power. It's only natural to us. Things that are natural, like for example, we are thirsty, there is water. Some people say man created God. It's not that. Just because we are thirsty doesn't mean we create water. If there is an inclination, it's somewhere there. So there's very, this is just one chapter of the book called Srimad Bhagavatam. It's 18,000 verses. You can take your time reading it. It talks very, very elaborately about who God is, God's pastimes, God's associates, God's names, through story, in story format. And these are historical references. It's called Srimad Bhagavatam.
Do you think is it possible to get it in Gallon?
.net.
I can give you the details how you can find this, but so yeah, details are all given. And Bhagavad Gita, that's a more easier to understand because it's easier language and it's just a philosophies. It's talking about who we are, who God is, material nature, time, and karma. Once we understand these basic rules and principles, then we can go for differential equation. So it's like there's layers of understanding. If we jump into Srimad Bhagavatam, it might be a little bewildering at first.
Just one question, the Bhagavad Gita, I read like the ISKCON version, the translation. The word opulence was used a lot in relation to Krishna. Why is opulence used exactly? My question is like, what I got from the Bhagavad Gita, I didn't analyze it that well, so I haven't really read it in depth. But what I got from it was the idea of Krishna as being kind of like the personality of everything there is. Like the sum total. Not the sum total, but like, you know what I'm saying, right? Kind of. Like,
There are two things. There is Krishna, and then there's Krishna's. There's God, and then there's God's property. Everything has a source. This thing has plastic, battery, metal. They all came from a source. Everything has a cause. So Krishna is defined, or God is defined, the cause of all causes, the source of all sources, without any beginning or equals.